My world, our world, may keep changing, but I'm not going to let the days blur together anymore. This is my awakening, my call to bounce back, to thrive. I stand for those who make up the fabric of my life, where I come from and where I'm going. I stand for my community and for myself. My mission is to change the word challenge to opportunity. And my goal is to live without limitations. Let's make a declaration together. Our future has no boundaries, no limits, no ceilings. I'm opting in, signing up, and using my voice. Today is the day I recommit to my shine, to digging deep for inspiration, to reaching out when I need help and when I can give it, to ensure that all of our voices are heard and the person behind each voice is served. For myself, for my community, for our health, and for so much more, because my promise is to live fierce every day. There is strength in possibility, strength in numbers, and new opportunities are going to keep on coming. With the American Heart Association by my side, I'm ready for them, because we live fierce.
I'm Claire, I'm 16, I'm a junior. Well, I started vaping when I was probably in 8th or 9th grade. It started through sports, honestly, just people on my team, like that was who I was with most of my time. I didn't like it at first, it hurt, I coughed, I was like, this is icky. I think we need to deal with mental health and the reason why people are using. Personally, for me, vaping was a way to have something else like use to cope with my mental health, to cope with my depression, to cope with my anxiety. I would go through 3 pods a day, which would be, like my pods held about like 2 milliliters. And so 2 milliliters of juice, if you like look it up, is equivalent to like a pack of cigarettes worth of nicotine. And so technically I was inhaling 3 packs worth of nicotine. I got so scared, but I was too scared to tell anyone that this was happening to me because I knew I was gonna get in trouble. I hated it, and yet the addiction was so strong that I kept using. And my parents, they did not have the reaction I thought. My mom was like she sat me down and I talked to my mom and my dad for like a solid 2 hours. Life is not easy, like school's not easy, friendships are not easy, but you need to make it through this hard part in your life so that you can have your future, and addictive chemicals aren't gonna help you get there. It's not gonna get you to where you wanna be.
We have the world at our fingertips, inspiration in our touch, and power in our hands. Our hands, gentle enough to hold the next generation, yet strong enough to build movements that can change the world. Our hands can build relationships, frame ideas, and empower communities. We have the ability to share and imagine, create and comfort, love and heal the world around us. And it doesn't stop there. Right here, in our hands, we have the power to save a life. If you see a teen or adult suddenly collapse, call 911 and push hard and fast in the center of the chest.
The power is in your hands.
Getting back to this. To her. To family. To friends. To hugs. For people at higher risk of COVID-19 complications because of diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart conditions, the COVID-19 vaccine is an important choice. Consider it's the first step towards getting back to what you miss so much safely. Getting back to life. Set your heart on it. It's up to you. A message from the American Heart Association.
Good evening and welcome to the Empowered to Serve and National Charity League Empowering Young Leaders Virtual Town Hall. I am Pamela Garman Johnson, National Vice President of Health Equity and Partnerships with the American Heart Association, and I have the honor of leading our Empowered to Serve team and collaborate with our national strategic alliances to turn our mission into action. And first, thank you to the National Charity League for their collaboration on this event and our continued partnership together. The AHA mission is to be a relentless force for longer, healthier lives. However, we cannot achieve that mission alone. We need powerful partners like National Charity League to stand and work with us towards this mission. If you are joining us from an NCL chapter, drop your name and the name of your chapter in the chat box so we can give a warm hello. So, okay, everybody get ready. So we're going to use the chat box. So we want to make this an engaging evening. So I'm going to throw out a few questions throughout. So make sure that you engage accordingly. If you are an AHA volunteer or an ambassador, let us know where you are joining us from so we can give you a quick hello too. So I am going to participate because I live in Chicago, Illinois, even though I'm based out of the national office of the American Heart Association in Dallas, Texas. So I have the honor and privilege of working remotely and have done so for many years, and we won't talk about that tonight. A few things to get us started. We are recording this session, that's number one, and it will be available via the AHA YouTube channel and on the NCL website. And we're going to have some important calls to action, so that means you have to pay attention later in the program, and you don't want to miss those calls to action because there could be implications for them. So let's open up the chat box with questions to get us started. So, what heart healthy activity did you do today? So for instance, let me give you a couple of options. Like, did you go for a walk today? Did you take a break from school today and take a walk or did a run? Did you meditate? What did you do to have a break from Zoom? Because I know that we are all zoomed out at some point each day. Did you hit your water intake goal? Did you meditate? So let me tell you what I did. So for those that know me, I start my mornings with meditation and then I get in my exercise. So the morning is mine because I know in the evenings I'll never get to it. So that's what I do. So I see some of you went for a bike ride, you did volleyball, you walked, that's hip hop aerobics. Oh, that sounds fun. Dr. Rogers, that sounds like a whole lot of fun. Meditated, yes, we have to have mental health intact. So I appreciate the fact that many of you have been very active. That is fantastic. So moving on, our national collaboration with the National Charity League started in 2015 and has expanded to include numerous opportunities for members to engage with various AHA activities, and we appreciate that. So already NCL members have given over 53,000 hours to AHA activities, even while we have been sheltered at home and working virtually. So that kudos to NCL, we really do appreciate that. And in the midst of this unprecedented time when schools, companies, and organizations like the AHA and NCL had to change course, we continued our collaboration and charged ahead to fulfill our missions and create impact. That's the most important part. So from that charge and our commitment, we launched EmPOWERED Ticktockers. I love that name, EmPOWERED Ticktockers. It has so many implications, but it definitely means action to me. And so what does that mean? It is an innovative new leadership program that empowered TikTokers to learn about key issues, engage in their community, and become the next generation of leaders on important topics affecting the health and well-being of their communities. So let's give a round of applause to all of the participants of our EmPOWERED TikTokers program, because you are leaders. And we're going to share more about how you can get involved at the end of our program. One of the things the AHA has been doing is hosting roundtables throughout the year, and especially since we've been sheltering in place. And we've covered a myriad of topics. So in November of last year, we had the opportunity of bringing together young leaders, as yourselves, and scholars to discuss topics important to them, including health equity and social justice. Today, as a part of our collaboration with NCL and the Empowered Ticktockers program, we are going to continue the dialogue with this town hall featuring some incredible young leaders, ambassadors, and scholars from across the country who are voices for change, whether that is in their community, school, or on campus that they attend. I have the pleasure of introducing these young leaders and our moderator for this evening. So first, an empowered TikToker from the Monterey Bay chapter of National Charity League, Ms. Thalia Hubbard. Thalia is currently a senior at Pacific Grove High School and has been actively involved in her NCL chapter, including serving as the class president, VP of programs, treasurer, and even served on the TikToker Council for several years. Thalia participated in the vaping and e-cigarette cohort and is eager to put into practice what she learned and use her voice to combat youth vaping. Thalia, welcome. And you have been busy, young lady. Our second panelist is also an empowered TikToker from the Rancho Irvine chapter of NCL, Ms. Stella Casala. Stella, she is a junior attending Orange County School of the Arts and is in the Family Culinary Arts and Hospitality Conservatory. At the beginning of this school year, she took a class about nutrition and special diets, where her interest in food access and nutrition security formed. Her knowledge and love for the industry drew her into working along NCL and the American Heart Association. Welcome, Stella. Our next young leader joining us today is Miss Alana Adley. Alana is a You're the Cure advocate from Raleigh, North Carolina. She is a junior attending the University of North Carolina at Asheville, earning a degree in arts management and entrepreneurship. Welcome. Next, I would like to introduce Pariswi Tawari, the founder and co-president of You're the Cure UC Berkeley, an AHA-affiliated student organization. She is a graduating senior from the University of California, Berkeley, with degrees in biology and English. She is currently finishing up her honors thesis in targeted cancer research, which is a continuation of her work at the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. After taking her first public health course at UC Berkeley, she fell in love with health policy work and started the You're the Cure at Berkeley Student Club, where she and her team promote healthcare advocacy to their fellow college students. In her free time, I don't know how you have any free time doing all of this. She loves drinking coffee, writing, and tending to her many plants. And she does not hope to go to school. I know for a fact she will definitely go to medical school. Welcome. Next is Thon B Bud Kumkar, who is the president of the AHA ambassadors on the campus of the University of Alabama at Birmingham. She is a junior engineering student with a passion for the creative arts. Thon B is working towards her goal of attending medical school, and I'm going to pause here. You will also go to medical school. It's not a hope or a dream, you will do it. To be on the forefront of healthcare policy change so she can do her part to build a better future for the next generation, which I know you will do. Lastly, our moderator for today's discussion, Ms. Asia Woodard, is currently a health science major at Spelman College and an HBCU scholar. Asia lent her voice to our conversation in November. That's when I first met her, and she is dynamic. And we are excited to have her joining us again to lead this conversation. So join me in welcoming these talented young leaders as I turn it over to Asia. Asia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pamela, and thank you to the American Heart Association and the National Charity League for hosting this conversation today. To answer Pamela's question earlier, I also did some yoga and some meditation this morning for my heart healthy activity. And the American Heart Association has recently been pushing to talk about topics that align with my passions and that also affect my communities. In November, as Pamela mentioned before, we had a roundtable talk about health justice, an issue that has always been present, but this pandemic has shed a new light on it. The AHA takes the time to spread information about tricky topics that need to be shared. So it is important to me to continue working with them in any way that I can. I am so honored to moderate this discussion and to dive into some important topics affecting me, my peers, and all young adults across the country and even the world. First, let's talk about what health means to each of us. We know we all have different experiences and backgrounds, and health can mean different things to everyone. So Stella, let's start with you. What does health mean to you?
Thank you, Asia. First, I would like to thank AHA and NCL for hosting this town hall and giving me the opportunity to participate in the Empowered TikTokers initiative. For me, health relates both to physical and mental health. I'm a huge advocate for happiness within yourself and that you are constant in your life and you should be happy by yourself and like in yourself. So getting involved with the Empowered TikTokers program was important to me because a lot of the times people say they want to get educated and have their voices heard, but then sit there and do nothing. So when I saw this opportunity, I jumped at it.
Thank you, Stella. I definitely related to what you said about taking the time to jump at every opportunity instead of kind of sitting back and letting things happen to you. And Alana, we'll go to you next.
Thing for everyone. And particularly my background with it relates to the fact that my mother was born with a hole in her heart, a quarter-sized hole in her heart, and had to get surgery at the age of 2. And when she was pregnant with me, she developed 2 more holes, and she actually met with some American Heart Association volunteers when she was pregnant with me because she was very worried and wanted to be able to help as much as she could for other people who were going through the same thing, but maybe did not have as much money and help as she did to take care of it and get the surgery that she needed. And I've basically been volunteering since I was in a stroller because I, like my mother, want to be able to experience all the good things I possibly can in life. And health is the key to that. If you don't have health, you really can't, if you don't have good quality health, you will really struggle to enjoy life. And personally, I've gotten to see what that can be like firsthand from having to grow up with a mother that I had to worry about, what would happen to her if she got another hole. And it's an extremely personal thing for me. And I've been very blessed to get to volunteer with people and actually personally share my voice and get to help in the cause of improving health everywhere. So I am very excited about this opportunity and just being able to share my voice, especially at such a young age, because health is really serious and not everybody is quite informed considering, advertising and what is thrown, especially at youth, about what health means and what is maybe trendy or cool in terms of health. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Alana. And I know that you're a part of the You're the Cure network, and I know that's related to tobacco and vaping, which is something that we will talk about later, which is a part of kind of our conversation for today. But next, I'll move to Thalia. What about you? Same question. What does health mean to you?
What I thought health meant has changed a bit since participating in the initiative. Health now represents a state of physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Volunteering with the American Heart Association helped me to understand health as more than just working out and looking healthy. Being healthy is a lifestyle choice. And working towards health requires more than just the 30 minutes of exercise per day that is recommended.
Thalia, I definitely agree. Health it's an all-encompassing experience, and it's not just one thing or one other thing. And that's kind of something that has to be taken into consideration. Next, I will turn it over to Par. Par, same question. What does health mean to you?
Thanks, Asia, and thank you so much to the American Heart Association for co-hosting this important conversation today. When I was growing up, I thought health meant figuring out how many apples I would need to eat to keep my doctor away and live forever. But the way that I think about health has evolved a lot over the years. Now, my understanding of health is bifurcated into both mental and physical considerations, as well as bridging that relationship between the two. As students, especially, navigating mental health can feel discouraging, intangible, and isolating sometimes. And health also means striking a better balance between preventative care and treatment. And lastly, there are also important considerations to make regarding the accessibility of health and healthcare and addressing the social inequities that contribute to vastly different experiences that various communities have when it comes to their health.
A girl after my own heart. Par, thank you for that insightful answer. Lastly, I'm going to ask Thon B. Same question. What does health mean to you?
Asia, first, a really big thank you for leading this discussion. And second, thank you to the AHA for hosting this conversation. I'm happy to be here. So I was reflecting on this question a lot. And first of all, what comes to my mind is being proactive. I think that you have to be proactive. And health is something that all of us just, take for granted. I had a family member afflicted, with cardiovascular disease pretty recently, and that really made me stop and think about how I treat myself and, how I even regard my own health. And it's oftentimes when we're growing up, our parents and our loved ones tell us, treat others well, be kind to others. But how often is it that we hold a mirror to that statement back to ourselves and treat our own selves well, ask ourselves, are we being kind to ourselves today? And I really think that it's something that we need to reflect on more and make sure we're taking care of ourselves. And speaking, from a point of being in the South, I do recognize the prevalence of cardiovascular disease. I'm from Alabama. And so that's why I created this org at the University of Alabama at Birmingham, is because I wanted students our age to start being proactive and having these conversations with ourselves, with our families, so that none of us have to go through what others on this panel have gone through. And that's why I'm really happy to be here and talk to you all today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Thanvi. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today and lending your voice to the conversation. I've already gleaned several insightful tidbits just in that introduction, so I'm really already knowing that it's going to be a great conversation. So let's jump in. All of our lives have changed this year. For me personally, I attend college in Atlanta, and when I left home, I never imagined that I would be coming back home to live at home again. And it has been hard to adjust living at home and being in the house with the same people day in and day out. Combined with the stress of being in online classes, which has been completely different than being in on-campus classes, the changes have been hard for me. But I've learned to adjust by doing my best to find something to do outside of being at home, like going on a walk and just taking time outside of the house at the best that I can so that I'm at a better place mentally. One of the key issues that I have seen amongst my peers and that I hinted at just a bit previously is mental health. So let's do a quick chat box dialogue. I want everyone to drop in factors that you think affect mental well-being or affect someone's mental health. If you will, please indulge me. And whatever you think affects mental health. Stress levels, absolutely. Sleep, oh yes, I could definitely attest to that one. Isolation, substance abuse. So honestly, all of these answers are really good answers and they're all true, because really any factor that increases an individual's stress level and can negatively impact a person's sense of well-being. Our well-being, mental well-being, is connected to our overall physical health and vice versa. So even things around us in our environment can affect our mental health. All of us have been affected by the pandemic in one way or another. And for many of my peers, the changes of moving from on-campus learning to virtual learning has definitely affected them, as well as myself. So Par, how have you seen the pandemic and changes on campus affect mental health and well-being on your campus?
The pandemic has really been a testament to the fact that no matter what your socioeconomic standing is or what privileges you've been afforded in life, no one's immune to something as primitive as a virus. And with that said, the pandemic has further exposed the sort of immense disparities even within our student body in how we deal with that virus. Students have had a lot of trouble acclimating to a virtual learning environment, with study habits being upended, for example, as you were talking about, Asia. The libraries have all closed on campus, and not everyone has a safe, supportive, and quiet home environment to study in. Students have had to deal with feeling increasingly isolated from their friends and support circles. And I've even had friends who've taken a semester or a couple of quarters off due to the stress and uncertainty that they feel resulting from the pandemic. Then there are the additional factors that are exacerbating students' hardships, including the inability to afford rent, wherein students are moving home with their parents, as you said, or even experiencing houselessness in some cases, whether it's living out of your car or crashing on a friend's couch. For those students who've moved home, juggling family relationship dynamics can be delicate and taxing. And even more in terms of food insecurity, we're seeing food banks weathering incredibly high demand due to people losing their jobs and sources of income. So as we all know, this past year or so has been a truly difficult time for folks.
Yes, and we've also been able to see that, mental health is multifaceted, and the different things that can have an effect on one's mental health, despite what you think may be big or little, they can all have different effects. So Par or Tanvi, what interventions or help has your campus started to help students deal with mental health, their well-being, or issues like housing instability or food insecurity?
So first of all, I don't think anybody needs to emphasize or describe the gravity of the health crisis that the pandemic has caused. But it's less often that we talk about the mental health crisis that it caused in this country, and especially for college students. Coming from an immigrant family, as I'm sure a lot of people on this call are as well, these aren't really conversations that personally I feel comfortable talking with my family about. So it's nice being able to come to a university and talk about mental health, understand what that means, and really try and figure out when you deserve a break. Because anything, the biggest lesson I've learned this year is to just take a pause. You don't have to wait till it gets to the breaking point. And in terms of UAB, I really think they've done a phenomenal job trying to understand where students are coming from and also provide resources that, support that. For example, not only do we have mental health ambassadors who are constantly holding Zoom calls for fun ideas like cooking classes, an interactive yoga session, or even art therapy, the university has gone on to expand to something called wellness days. So I did not have a spring break this year, as I'm sure many of you did not as well. So they just sort of supplemented with a makeshift spring break, and I'm really appreciative of that. I do care about my education, but I'm glad the university also cares about how we're doing mentally.
Yes, I actually just got back to class from my mental health break as well from classes. I wanted to take this time to ask if there was anyone else on the panel who wanted to talk about an increase in their mental health amongst their peers and why it's important to address. It's definitely important to address because you never know at what point someone can be and how close they can be to kind of the end of the road for them. And so it's really important to talk about it and to clear the air and to keep an open communication so that, because you never know what impact your words are going to have on someone. So you want to be able to have that open communication and to address it with your peers so that you can do the best that you can to help them, even if they don't know they need help or even if they don't want to reach out. But for many, one of the ways to cope with stress is to turn to vaping, tobacco, or other substances. Alana, I would like to hear your thoughts about this. Knowing that many of your peers and students across the country are experiencing more stress, what can be done to prevent youth from turning to vaping or tobacco?
One thing that I've seen in my peers is our stress levels have been increasing. And while I can hear from Par and Tanvi that their colleges are doing some great things, my high school did not necessarily have the same idea when it came to the pandemic, and we were not really offered those same mental health resources. So instead, we have this already stressed group of students who have become even more stressed as they're going all online for classes and they're not being able to see their friends. And some people at my school did not have the healthiest household situation, so now they don't even have the escape from school to do that. And a lot of them turned to vaping. it's a way for them to escape their problems, and they don't really have often the support mechanisms of a family to talk through their problems. So they turn to whatever way they can deal with it on their own. So one thing that's really important when we're talking about a crisis like this is just peer-to-peer messaging and talking to your peers. For example, like you said before, you never know how close people are to the end of the road, and you never know what's going on in their life. So even just sitting there and talking to them about why you think vaping is bad, not trying to take away from their coping mechanism, but simply explain to them that you understand what they're feeling, you understand what they're going through, and even if you don't understand, that you understand that they are struggling. That can be so helpful. And especially when you can have that conversation and lead into, while that is a coping mechanism, there are other healthier, safer coping mechanisms. The fact of the matter is, we don't know what vapes do. We do not have the resources and the research to tell us what the impacts of vaping will be in the long run. And because of that, it's not safe. It is not a safe coping mechanism. And if you are in a place where you can talk to your peers and just kind of direct them to some other coping mechanisms, have them go on walks with you, text them daily, just do something so that they're not turning to this epidemic of vaping, that would be amazing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Alana's is working now, so I will jump back to her and have her also respond to the question.
Personally, at my college, I go to college in Asheville, which, if you don't know Asheville's reputation, it's a very sort of hippie city where everybody's like, hey, you can smoke, get to relax, and, get everything off of you. It'll relax you. And people don't really, they just see it as like a sweet recreational thing that'll ease you rather than actually thinking about all of the health issues that come with that. And it's really hard to actually be able to talk to your peers and help them out and be able to say like, hey, this is actually really serious, because a lot of like advertising towards youth it makes it sound as if it's not a big deal. Like, oh yeah, tobacco is bad, but vaping is fine. Like, it doesn't have the same effects. You won't feel anything. Like, it's basically just sugar water. And they advertise it so that it sounds really nice and like we won't be affected, when that's not the case. And it's just really upsetting to see how much is growing. So I've done a lot here. I've actually recently, in my dining hall here, had a discussion with some of the dining staff about not allowing people to vape indoors, especially because it just encourages it more. And again, it was the same thing where they didn't even, as grown adults, did not recognize that it's really more harmful than they think it is. And I've actually started a bit of an initiative here to create my own youth empowerment group here through American Heart, because we actually do not have one anywhere within at least an hour of this area. And again, nobody, when there's not, a group to tell you, nobody knows that it's bad or that there are any issues related to it. So I've personally talked to my friends a lot about it before trying to start it. And I'm working with my leader, Betsy Vetter, to start one here so that, people can get informed, because even some things like, actually having small meetings, whether that's over Zoom or in person, can do a lot, because people really do want to know what goes into their bodies. Like, they care, they just aren't aware of what's affecting them and how much it's affecting them. So it's more important than a lot of people realize. And I want people to know that you can talk to anyone about it, really. It's okay to say something. Don't feel like you're doing something wrong or, infringing on somebody's coping mechanisms by actually speaking up. We want you to speak up. It's better that you speak up.
Alana and Thalia, thank you. Thank you for talking about tobacco and vaping and giving us those tidbits of advice and information on how to, help your peers or just to help yourself. A lot of my peers in high school and in college started to get into vaping because it is seen as a safer way to smoke than smoking cigarettes, and subsequently developed a nicotine addiction on top of the negative side effects that are occurring behind the scenes in the body that we know about and that we may not even know about. It is scary how quickly an addiction can develop so So it's a scary how an addiction can develop at such a young age, especially in people among us. And it's hard for them to stop because it's an addiction. And so then people are they're compelled, they don't have, and so they need us to be able to help them if they need to stop that addiction, or to help them realize and help them come to terms with maybe it's time to stop, or please don't ever start. Plus, we know that tobacco companies specifically market to youth, young adults, and especially diverse individuals. A 2018 study examined the promotion of alternative tobacco products, and we found that it was disproportionately more accessible and more advertised in non-white and low-income neighborhoods. Black and Hispanic neighborhoods are also more likely to carry inexpensive products such as 99-cent cigarillos. So it's just made so much more available and so much easier to gain access to. And then it's also pushed even more to be used in these different neighborhoods. We talked about what our schools and campuses can do to help those experiencing mental stress. But what about each of us? What can we do for each other, as we have hinted at before, but let's have a bit of a more direct conversation about it. What have you or your friends experienced due to not being at school or class together? And how have you checked in with your friends? I think I will direct this question at Stella, please.
I think that right now is especially important to take time for my fellow high school juniors to make sure that we are working hard and achieving what we want to achieve, but also keeping in mind how much time we're spending on the things that we personally enjoy and not just schoolwork. I've personally been online for a little over a year now, and I have only seen some of my close friends in person, and it's a totally different dynamic. Because I am used to going to school for a long time. I, was at school from like 7:45 in the morning till 5 at night, sometimes a little later. And that's not including the 20 to 25-minute commute that I had to do each way. So I was at school a long time and I was with my friends. So being online is totally different and it puts you in a different headspace. And I would say that no matter what grade you're in or what age you are, you need to find something that you can look forward to, and something that can be as simple as going on a walk, a drive if you have your license, dance, play a game with friends, or watch a show. It doesn't matter, but you need to listen to yourself and check in with what you personally need. And also checking in with friends has looked a little different, and just like texting them and FaceTiming them and seeing them as much as possible in person, it totally makes a difference in your life, no matter what.
Thank you, Stella. I also want to give the chance for another panelist to maybe talk about this a little bit or give a call to action.
One thing I found is, as Stella was saying, it can be super hard you're not seeing your peers right now. It can be hard to reach out, but it really doesn't take much. One thing that one of my best friends have done is we do like baking returns. I don't know what we would call it, but basically she bakes me something. And when she gives it to me, she gives it to me on a plate, whatever plate she has lying around. But then as part of something I do is I will go ahead, wash her dish, and then I'll bake something to come give her back the plate. And we maybe see each other every other week or so when we're doing this. But it helps because we know that we're thinking of each other. We're thinking of, oh, what can I make that she'll like? She's vegan, so she knows I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what can I make that accommodates her diet and she will still enjoy, but I can also feed my family because we are not vegan and my family loves to eat meat. So whatever I make that I want to share needs to be vegan. It also helps with my family because then we get to try new fun recipes. Another thing that I've done is sometimes I'll just FaceTime one of my classmates and just we'll mute each other, but we'll be able to see each other because especially on Zoom, sometimes you don't want to put your camera on. Sometimes it's a lot and people don't always have their cameras on in Zoom. But one thing you can do is just FaceTime, because then even if you're not talking to each other, you're still in the same space. Even if you don't get to talk to another classmate, you get to see each other. And it makes it so you have a little bit more human connection because that element of school has been pretty much torn away by COVID.
Thank you, Thalia. And I definitely like that idea because it's hard to just stare at people's names all day or people's pictures. And it's definitely something I don't like to do, but I also don't always want to turn on my camera. So you definitely have made very valid points there. So to talk about, kind of move into this, talk a little bit more about this subject, a pre-COVID study was released that highlighted mental well-being in youth. In our demographic, adolescents' self-reported suicidal ideation and plans have dropped. But among Black youth, another group that makes up my demographic, suicidal attempts increased by 73%. This is why it is important that we are having this conversation. As a part of this group, the correlation between systemic problems such as racism, poverty, and police-involved shooting that involve Black victims may be responsible for these increases regarding young Black Americans. These systemic issues and negative events known as adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, can have lasting effects on long-term health and well-being. The CDC estimates that 1 in 4 children will experience a trauma in their lifetime. And this was just pre-COVID. We heard a lot about what our schools and campuses are doing, what we can do as friends and peers, but there's still much more to be done. The American Heart Association is continuing the study of mental well-being on overall heart health and brain health, but we have to come up with solutions that will save the lives of those we know and love today. I challenge each of us to learn more about mental well-being, get involved, and reach out if you're experiencing a mental crisis. If you know everyone experiencing a crisis, or if you know anyone experiencing a crisis, or you yourself need help, please reach out to the following resources. You can text HOME to 741-741, which is a crisis text line. You can also call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK. You can also call the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI helpline at 800-950-NAMI, NAMI. We will put these links and numbers in the chat. I think Thalia will give us a little bit more on mental well-being and a call to action.
Mental well-being is one of the most important facets of life for teenagers today. Personally, I know several friends who have either dropped out of school or have moved to online school after issues with their mental well-being led to spotty attendance and caused them to not be welcome back at public school. It honestly doesn't take much to support others when they're struggling mentally. It doesn't seem like much, but even just a simple text telling them how much they mean to you is often enough to brighten someone's day when they're struggling. I encourage you right now, pick someone, pick your friend, pick someone you think might be struggling, pick someone you know is struggling, and just go ahead and text them, ask them how their day is doing, or just say how much they mean to you.
Thank you, Thalia. I think I will actually text a couple people because why not? One of the ways that people cope is through eating. You know, a stress eater. I can admit to also being a stress eater. Sometimes it's easier to go through the drive-thru than to cook at home. Tanvi, earlier you talked about life on campus. Can you tell us a little bit more about how sometimes the healthy option is hard to make? And are healthy options even available on your campus?
First of all, the early quarantine snacking. Yes, that was an amazing time. First of all, as a vegetarian, it's an extreme struggle to find food options that fit me. Again, in the South, it's not exactly the most vegetarian-friendly place. So I think in my freshman and sophomore year, even at UAB, where they try and be a little more inclusive, I think I found myself eating a lot of grilled cheeses or like weird salads. So I understand, I really get the struggle. So that's why I kind of started doing a little bit of research about what options are available for me. And I found that we have a really amazing food bank on campus. And I think it has a really negative connotation, just like to hear the word food bank. You're just like, do I really want to go there? But it's really nice. It's a completely free service for students and employees. And it's a way for you to have more control and autonomy over the choices that you make. And cooking is something that I feel like just got super popular during quarantine. Everybody was trying to make new things. And so having a place where I can get, the raw ingredients that fit my diet completely free and of complete convenience made cooking a lot more fun and something I look forward to, not to mention just a way to de-stress and fill up the time of just staying at home. So I do want to just say that at the end of the day, there does come some personal responsibility to the choices that you make. It's true and realistic that sometimes finding options that suit your dietary needs can be difficult. But once again, this is like a theme of the conversation tonight. We do need to be more cognizant of what we put in our bodies that can have really like long-term effects. So even if it might be a little bit difficult to find those options that are available to you, I cannot stress the importance of prioritizing that. But once again, I really have to just give a shout out to our food bank. It just really got me through the quarantine.
That is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to take the time to throw it to Stella.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to learn more about food insecurity during our Empowered Ticktockers meetings. And one of the things I learned is the difference between food access and nutrition security. So to put it simply, food access is the ability to obtain food and bring it home to your family, whereas nutrition security is the ability to obtain food and it be nutritious food. So food access is your typical fast food or cheap, cheap food, and nutrition security is where you can get and eat fresh and good whole products such as fish, whole grains, dairy, fresh fruits, and vegetables, as well as other items. So in my community in school, we do a lot of drives that go directly into food banks. Specifically in NCL, I volunteered at Ronald McDonald House preparing meals for the families that have loved ones in the nearby hospital. And I've also volunteered at the Second Harvest Food Bank for their special events. And those both are very important places and has allowed me to be more connected in my community. And as well as me being a student attending an art school with the concentration in culinary arts, I have learned, and I am still learning, about various foods and meals that my peers do not have the opportunity to realize how simple it is to make something that, one, tastes good, and two, is good for you. Simple things like a Buddha bowl allow you to customize it to be healthy while still tasting good, and it being a simple recipe that you can make no matter what your skill set is. So incorporating the fruits and vegetables could be as simple as swapping out the greasy chips you like to eat and get dehydrated fruits and vegetables instead.
Stella, I can just imagine that you make some delicious meals and I'm super jealous I'm not able to taste them being all the way far away from you. And then I will let Thalia give me a little story as well.
Yeah, on the topic of food, just food overall, one struggle I often heard about on the topic of healthy eating is eating out. Because if you're busy and you're like our family and you're busy and you've got everyone working, then you come home at the end of the day and you're exhausted and no one wants to cook and no one has the energy to cook. And all of a sudden someone's ordered in Michael's, that's our local Mexican restaurant that we love, or Dos Victorias, and suddenly we're eating out for the third time that week. And it was having a really negative impact on just the health of our family, because the fact of the matter is it's food. It's just not healthy food. We're getting fries and chips and nacho sauce and everything that we should not be eating 3 times a week. So one change that my family made that made a huge impact, and it really didn't take that much time, is we started meal planning. And what that looked like is at the beginning of each week, we just sit down and say, okay, here's our schedule. So here's the days each person can cook. And on these days, you're responsible for a meal. Doesn't matter what the meal is, but that person is responsible. And it took away the element of coming home at the end of the day and everyone being tired and sitting there going, well, what are we going to eat? Let's just get food. We had a plan that way. And even we could build in days that we wanted to eat out that day, but it wasn't just coming home and saying, oh, I'm hungry and I don't want to cook, so we're going to eat out tonight. And it's such a huge change that takes so little time in comparison. That is honestly something I recommend everyone trying in their families. And you can incorporate everyone. If you're an NCL right now, a TikToker, your mom might be busy. Maybe she's got a patroness meeting and maybe your dad's working. Go ahead and say, I'll make dinner this time, and try to incorporate it, because honestly, it's a life skill that everyone should learn. So just try and cook at least once a week, and it'll help your family so much. And then you'll find yourself eating so much healthier.
Thalia, I love to hear how your family is all working together on the healthy eating journey. Myself personally, I can understand being on campus and being in a food desert. My own institution, Spelman College, is in a food desert, so we have to travel quite a bit of distance to even get to a proper grocery store. I have learned personally that meal prepping is an easier way to make sure your food is healthy, all while saving the time not having to cook every day. So if you cook on, say, Sunday, and you can have leftovers for Monday and Tuesday and maybe even Wednesday, depending on how far you want to stretch your meals. But I definitely think meal prepping and having an idea of what you're going to have at the beginning of the week will also, especially for people who live on campus or who live by themselves, it's easier to have your leftovers that you can stretch out for a couple more days. And then you know what you're eating. You took the time, but you're also saving time not having to cook every day. The American Heart Association has some amazing resources themselves. The staff, as you may have seen, is dropping in links to recipes, infographics, and some great resources to help anyone incorporate healthy options. So definitely check those out when you get a chance. We have had a great conversation already, and I know that we could talk about so many different things that are affecting us today and during this pandemic, because I know everyone has different experiences and a lot of different things have happened to everyone. But let's talk about how we can continue to use our voices to be leaders on our campuses and in our communities. Alana, you are part of the You're the Cure grassroots network. You have even spoken and given testimony at several events. Young adults often think that their voices don't matter and that they can easily be drowned out. But can you talk about how your voice has mattered? Also, can you touch on how others, no matter what their age, can use their voice to impact issues such as vaping or tobacco-free policies?
So yes, since I was a very young child, have gotten to do a lot of different advocacy and volunteer work through AHA, and I've gotten to do a lot of different things on a very large spectrum of events. So like it started off just I would join my mom holding her hand going to state lobby day. I had my little speech prepared and I was like, this is why I think having a healthy lunch is important at the wee age of 7 years old. So it's okay, you can bring your kids if you're like, no, I'm old, they won't listen to me. Yes, they will. Like it does not matter how you look, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your background. Your representatives want to hear your voice. Your senators want to hear your voice. They represent you. They want to know how you feel. So don't be afraid to go there directly. I've gotten to do, like I said, state lobby day, national lobby day at Congress, going to DC. I've even done certain smaller scale things like letter to the editor, where I actually responded to a letter and it actually ended up being published in the newspaper. And I was, I think, 15 when I did that one, which I was not expecting at all. Or even things like this, like online conferences, town halls, you can still share your voice and your thoughts and not necessarily have to even leave your room. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of how many options they have to really share how they feel and all the different advocacy opportunities, because there are a lot of avenues for different types of, people with different skill sets. Even if you're like, well, I'm like a photographer, an art person, what do I have to do with advocacy? What does that have to do with, certain like more political things? How does that relate? And there's always a place for everyone. Or if you're like, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mother, but I don't necessarily know all the details about this or that. Or I personally lived it, but I don't know if they'll care. Trust me, they care. They want to hear perspectives from every single person they can, because again, your representatives represent you. So you have a lot of different opportunities of the ways that you can speak. And I know I've tried to go to more places that I haven't personally thought of previously, like churches, and actually going to public schools sometimes to speak to people who are younger than me who, again, they don't know they have a voice, especially you have this idea of like, oh, I'm young, I'm not even old enough to vote. What can I do to change things? You can do a lot. Like I said, letter to the editor, conferences, heart walks, all those things matter. And trust me, people pay a lot of attention. So you do have a large spectrum of different, events, activities you can do to contribute to your community, share your voice, and just make things better. So just know that, we all have a voice, we all have a story. And I would encourage anyone who wants to get involved, just join You're the Cure. You can go on our website and you can actually find if there are any chapters that are near you. And you can also look at a list of events that are in your area. And like I said, you have an entire plethora of things that you can get involved in, and you can start small and then get bigger once you're more confident and you're ready to do it. So just go out there and join us. We're ready.
I agree with Alana. Working with the Empowered TikTokers vaping cohort really showed me that there are other youth leaders among my peers that are just as willing as I am to work and make a change in our communities regarding vaping and vaping in our peers and in teens overall. My experience also taught me how easy it can be to stay engaged. The American Heart Association has all sorts of resources and infographics if you just take the time to look them up. And we can use those to help persuade our peers and legislators to make a change. It's important, this issue is. It's super important because we really don't know how this will impact the future. And it's important that we stay engaged because we're all being impacted. I bet right now, everyone can think of at least one person, a teen that they know that is vaping or is struggling in some way or another, and we can help them. And we're going to need some help to do so. So I would love if everyone could just stay engaged. Look up, the American Heart Association has all sorts of resources right now. And additionally, it really does not take much to just try and be a leader amongst your peers and be a positive voice in your community.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is now, Par is going to bless us with some insightful information.
So I grew up in the Bay Area of California, and Berkeley in particular has earned a reputation for the political cognizance and engagement of its community. So when I got to UC Berkeley as a young pre-med, I was a little bit disappointed at how this civic engagement translated poorly to the pre-health and pre-med student communities on campus. And as I started to take more public health classes and I was introduced to health policy, I knew that I wanted more for my community. So in this way, the American Heart Association's You're the Cure platform really impressed me because it was this digital sphere which sought to bridge that divide between kind of that governance level and the people who are being governed, right? Many people wait until something becomes a problem for them to get involved with advocating for change. And oftentimes that's the case because it can be really intimidating to even figure out where or how to start. So You're the Cure challenged that problem, and it made a virtual platform for healthcare advocacy that's more accessible for people in the community. And I wanted to bring this novel concept to UC Berkeley, and that's how my student organization was born. In addition to promoting health advocacy on campus, my organization has also sought to increase awareness on health disparities through student outreach, as well as patient outreach through local clinics. We've discussed the disproportionate effects of COVID-19, debunked vaccine misinformation, addressed preventative measures on ways that people can improve their cardiovascular health. And we've even touched on maternal mortality and the recent string of hate crimes against the Asian American community. So for me, the take-home message here is that if you feel a change needs to be made, don't be afraid to just start. I've been lucky to have a strong team with me to make our organization's work possible. And I truly, truly believe that if you are passionate about what you care about, passionate and hardworking people will be attracted to your energy too.
Thank you, Par. I honestly, personally feel influenced already and inspired to take my time to shine and make sure to bring awareness to the issues that are important to me. I'm gonna ask Thon B if she could talk a little bit about the work that she does on her campus at UAB.
Yeah, I've been listening to everybody's responses and I'm just so blown away by just how everybody's coming together and trying to do something. But for all the people that are on this call right now, first, all of our panelists are really amazing, but nothing that we're doing is extremely out of the blue. all of us just had an idea and had a passion, whether it was like through personal connection or personal interest, and we just reached out to the people who were closest to us. Personally, I reached out to the AHA in Birmingham and just sort of worked my way up through there, because after going through what I went through with my dad and my family members, and really being personally afflicted with the experience of dealing with the emotional and physical issues of cardiovascular disease, I wanted to bring this conversation to the younger generation, because we know the stats in the South, but I don't think that we really internalize it. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is, with the help of PAR and with a couple of AHA ambassadors across the country, we're trying to create like a national coalition of collegiate level AHA ambassadors. So we host events together, create fundraising opportunities, and ultimately maybe be able to create scholarships for the collegiate level. And, it's a grassroots kind of a thing where we're working on it right now. And some of the issues that UAB has tackled, to be a little bit more cognizant of the area and the region, is that we're trying to address the differences in healthcare of CBD through rural and minority communities. And we've had a couple of AHA experts come to talk, and they had some really amazing advice and insight. And next, we're just going to be working on some more fundraising opportunities and trying to find more inclusive and diverse recipes that target, the international population, or people who don't eat foods that are familiar, associated with typical American food. So we're working on it. It's a long-term goal, but I really, really encourage everybody on this call, if you have the passion, the drive, the interest, it does not take that much effort to really create a movement. And I'm happy to be here today talking with you guys, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you all have to say and do.
Okay, so I am officially inspired and ready to take action. And it's so great to see us leading the charge for overall healthy policies and activities on our campuses and in our communities. This has been an insightful, poignant, and just incredible conversation. I'm so honored to be with each of you and sharing this virtual stage, and I'm honored to meet all of you, and hopefully that we'll be able to get a chance to maybe even move past this and have further conversation. We could really keep talking all day, but I have some homework and some studying to get to, so let's go ahead and start wrapping things up. I'm going to give each of my peers one last opportunity to give a call to action for their peers. What do you want to leave us with tonight? What action do you hope your peers, your chapter members, or your fellow ambassadors take after this town hall? Alana, I will start with you.
I say that because everybody has health and we are all personally affected by our health, that we should all take action to do whatever we can to make everyone's health better, including our own, our family, and our friends. So, like I said, go on the website, look at everything you can, what's in your area. And if it's okay to start small, but do what you can, because everybody plays a part and you have a part that you will play.
I actually have an exciting announcement. Within the next few weeks, the American Heart Association is going to be launching a new digital platform for young people to engage in the tobacco endgame. Together, we can be sure ours is the generation that ends vaping, tobacco use, and nicotine addiction for good. If you would like to be among the first to know when the new site goes live, text the word endgame to 46839 right now. Just take out your phone and text endgame to 46839, and we'll text you when the site goes live.
Yeah, and I just want to thank the American Heart Association and the National Charity League again for hosting this program, as well as the folks at home who've taken a little time out of their day to come chat with us. Tangible change really starts with a simple idea and a little fire. So thank you.
Yeah, just like echoing what everyone else is saying. Everyone on this panel was fabulous. And just the last thought that I have is, no matter what age you are, make sure to check in on anyone that's in your life, and be aware of just like what's going on, because you never know. And just try and take away one thing that one of us has said today.
And for my little 30-second elevator pitch, I just have to say, care now, make good choices now, convince your peers to do the same. I really wish we were all invincible, but we just have to be around for our loved ones. Your mental health and your physical health are really invaluable. So live your life to the fullest and take care of yourselves.
because we are the future. We are what's happening next. So, take your time, take your action now. What better time to start than now, like Thon B was saying. Thank you to each of our phenomenal panelists today. One of the ways that you can continue to stay involved is to join the You're the Cure network, as many of our panelists have done. Text EmPOWER to 46839. For those of you interested in more opportunities to get involved with the AHA, then email volunteers@heart.org, or you can visit heart.org/volunteers online. If you are interested in starting a college club, we would be delighted to hear from you. So also email us at volunteers@heart.org. I would like to thank the American Heart Association's The Empowered to Serve team for inviting me to lead this discussion. It's honestly been a wonderful and insightful discussion, and I've learned so many different things and have really felt this call to action that you guys have all said to us. And the AHA is special to me because it has allowed me and my peers the space and opportunity to discuss topics that are near and dear to our hearts. Maybe we were even able to convince at least a few people today to join us on our journeys in the fight for health and food equity and for vaping and tobacco-free policies, as well as to check in on our peers, our friends, and our family about our mental health and to make it less of a scary conversation. Make sure you take that conversation and take that first step. I hope you have all enjoyed this discussion as much as I did and will tune in with us in the future when we hold other conversations. To close out, I am going to introduce Joan Raskin of the National Leadership Development Team at the National Charity League and a District Philanthropy Specialist Coach.
Thank you, Asia. What a phenomenal young lady and panel that we all had the pleasure of enjoying. Please join me in using your reaction button and giving them a big round of applause. Thank you, ladies, so much for leading such an insightful and powerful conversation. I, for one, have so many takeaways today. So just phenomenal time spent today. National Charity League is so honored to collaborate with the American Heart Association. We really look forward to working together to achieve the mission of ensuring that all individuals have the opportunity of living a longer and healthier life while bringing the NCL pillars of philanthropy, leadership, and culture together in an impactful way. The Empowered TikToker initiative has been just such a unique leadership opportunity that has given our TikTokers a greater capacity of leadership and really honoring their voice as a platform to allow them to critically think and collaborate with TikTokers all over the nation, the American Heart Association staff, and different and diverse partnerships and departments within the organization. I am thrilled to announce that the Empowered TikToker initiative will launch again this summer. So please stay tuned for more details in this important leadership opportunity. So with that, thank you so much for spending your time with the National Charity League and the American Heart Association and attending this virtual town hall. So ladies, stay safe, stay well, but most important, stay empowered. And in the words of author Diana Hardy, remember, it takes only one voice at the right pitch to start an avalanche.